Hey friends, Lucian here with the Bullish Bears team. This video is going to be on stock back testing. So there's a couple, popular terminology when trading. There's called breakouts, and then there's also retesting, right? Or back testing. So you hear either back testing, retesting, and then breakouts. So breakouts would be trading a breakout, and then back testing or retesting is letting that breakout form or happen, waiting for price to retest a previous support level or previous resistance level. Once you see confirmation, then you decide to get in. So that's what back testing is. Now there are a bunch of different stock patterns that you can do this with. So I'll just show you kind of a few here. The first example I'm going to show you, we'll start with this Apple. Just be aware of, I have a chart here, a weekly chart of Apple. It doesn't matter the chart time frame. Your strategy, whatever your strategy is, you can do the same exact thing that I'm showing you on a weekly chart, on a monthly, or a daily, an hourly, a 5-minute, a 1-minute chart, microsecond chart. All the principles are still the same. It's just, I want to show you just a few examples live, but don't get too caught up on it being a weekly chart. I'll show you it on a few different examples. So the first thing to be aware of is knowing patterns, right? Patterns form trend lines, angular support and resistance levels, as well as horizontal support and resistance levels. So when you look at price, always look left, because what happens in the past affects the future. So I'm going to show you over here. You see how there's kind of this consolidation period right here, and then you can kind of just form almost a top right here. And so I just connect, and I have my lines extended out to the future, because again, what happens in the past affects the future, right? That's how these support and resistance levels are formed, through these patterns. And then these patterns, this is where you determine, when you start learning them along the way, when you go, are you going to trade a breakout, or are you going to wait for a retest? So this is, you make those decisions based upon the patterns that are formed, and then based upon your trading style and your risk management. So the first one I want to kind of show you here is, you'll see there was kind of like an ascending triangle or a flag breakout, but then you'll see this had a failure, right? So this would have been an ascending triangle breakout, and if you waited, if you just traded the breakout and not the retest, you'll see this failed, right? So if you just got in at the break above this ascending triangle, didn't wait for this confirmation, you'll see it came back down and failed. Right? So breakouts, fake outs, fake outs happen all the time. So here's an example of one of an ascending triangle that was really beautiful, nice breakout, but it failed. So if you had waited for a retest, well, the retest didn't happen over here, right? But look forward to the future, you'll see, so this kind of went up, it failed, and now you have a head, and now you can say almost this is a left shoulder area. So what happened down over here is price kind of went down, failed. Now you could look down over in here, and this is where you can trade, breakouts. You can do retests. You can get in anticipation of a break of something too as well, right? So you can see, there was some consolidation over in here. As price went up and you saw this kind of hammer, you could have said, okay, maybe I'll get in an anticipation of a move up or a possible breakout, and gotten in down here. That's not a back testing or retesting. This is in anticipation of a move up, right? So that's a strategy, getting in kind of at support level before it goes up, before it breaks out. And you'll see right here, as this is pattern starting to form, if you didn't get in here and you let the price move up, now you can see price kind of went up, and now it's forming that head, that left shoulder, now right shoulder. So it kind of moved up. You had a little bit of breakout over here, and you're like, okay, is that it? If you got in anticipation of a breakout and not the retest, you could have gotten trapped here a little bit or stuck. And, so that would have been a couple little fake outs, right? But here's a back test or a retest. Price kind of goes up a little bit, and now it holds and it retests. So it retests the support level. And then, so right here, that would have been a retest right here. No retest over here. If you traded a breakout over here, this would have been a breakout. If you waited for a retest over in here, this is retest areas, but a lot of times, that's kind of the downside at times with waiting for retest. Sometimes you don't get it and you'll miss the breakout. But again, if you wait for the right setups, you'll get a good back test. Sometimes you'll miss them, but like with anything, there's always another trade. Let's zoom into a 5-minute chart of Apple just to kind of show you how this works on shorter time frames. You'll see right over in here, price kind of started off the day here on this chart. It kind of went up to that 144.84 level, right? So you can extend your lines out to the future. And then you can kind of do it right up over in here as well, right? So again, look left, whatever happens in the past affects the future. So with Apple, let's say you were watching this, you were looking to day trade it or looking at it intraday. If you were looking to get into Apple in anticipation, right? So there's in anticipation of a breakout, waiting for a breakout, waiting for a retest, right? If you were looking for something, in anticipation of a breakout or a move up, you might look in these areas right here as it's kind of consolidating, getting above that 9 EMA. You might look to get an entry in anticipation of a move towards higher days and break of higher day, right? If you wanted to get in and more of a breakout, as you can see, as price is starting to break out above this previous level, you might consider getting in over here. Again, it's bigger candlestick near resistance. Other people might wait for a break of higher day. This is where, again, you can wait for the breakout and you'll see what happened here again. This it broke out, it retested, right? So here's where the back test or the retest happens. And this is where, sometimes we're trading breakouts. You got to be very careful because you get in anticipation of a break and then again, it can fail, right? So another kind of pattern like that where it's starting to fail, possible cup and handle pattern. And you'll see it turned into a cup and handle. But you don't necessarily know, it's a cup and handle until the formation goes and continues and breaks out, right? So you can see as right here is this handle. And so when I talk about retest, so you can look as price went up, it retested this previous level, right? So this is the previous resistance level, went and broke out, it retested it. And then you had this candle over in here. So either this green candle or this one right here. If you waited for a retest, now you have that cup and handle. So cup with a bull flag holding previous levels. And that's a retest where many people wait for that retest to hold and then get in on the break, right? And again, anything can happen when trading, but a lot of times when you're waiting for that back test to happen, the patterns become a little bit more reliable because it's showing that breakout is holding. And so this is a really nice looking cup and handle retest. I really love bull flags. Bull flags are really nice. So you can get in on those breakouts here. But sometimes you might miss the entry, but these are nice. I like these small little candles off of support in a major overall pattern. Here's an example on a 1-minute chart here. We're kind of showing you, again, I like to show not as perfect examples at times. Sometimes when you see a bigger overall pattern, if you wait for a retest, you might miss it or you might get it might not be as clean as you want, but be aware of the bigger overall patterns where you can see here's a big inverse head and shoulders on a 1 minute. You can see this left shoulder, head, kind of right shoulder with kind of an ascending triangle flag, kind of cup and handle. So you put these things together and there's a couple little entries here, like you could have gotten in over here in anticipation of a break, but it came back down, right? So here's one in anticipation of a break. It failed. This would have probably scared some people. But if they held into the trade and you could have waited for a candlestick close below the hammer, it didn't. Then it went in over here and you can see it kind of creeps up. And, so there's anticipation of breaks. Then if you got in on the breakout here's where if you got in on the breakout, it worked. But if you're waiting for the back test or the retest, you had this one candle right here and then it kind of went and took off. So sometimes if you wait for these little candles and these hammers, this is where the breakout will happen many times and you might get the better entry. But that back testing, you could have gotten in right over here. And if you got in at the break of this candle, you used a candlestick close below this as your stop. But again, being aware of what's happened in the past, the bigger overall patterns. But it's just kind of the whole thing of there's getting in on patterns in anticipation of a break, getting in on the breakout, or getting in after it breaks out and retest. There's not really a right or a wrong way to do it as long as you use proper risk management, keep your strategy or your risk management small or your risk small. So like in something like this, if you were going to get in anticipation of a break over here, you could use a candlestick close below here as your stop. If you got in at the breakout right over here of this kind of inverse head and shoulders, cup and handle, you could use a candlestick close below here as your stop, or you can tighten it up at the top of that kind of inverse head and shoulders, cup and handle pattern. If you waited for the back test over in here, you could have used a candlestick close below this hammer as your stop. But it's super important to learn these patterns and not guess when you're trading. So with back testing, it's one of the safer ways to trade because you're waiting for confirmation of that breakout to hold. But again, it's all a matter of what your risk management, what your risk tolerance is. Risk management is the most important, but obviously it's what are you willing to risk on your trades.